I just spent months traveling across Asia. 7 countries. 7 completely different systems. 7 different answers to the same question. What does it actually mean to build a nation people want to live in? And everywhere I went, in the backs of tuk-tuks, in crowded train stations, in late-night conversations with strangers who became friends, people kept asking me the same thing. So, which country is the best? For a long time, I didn't have an answer. Because on the surface, every single country had something worth admiring. Some were wealthier. Some were more disciplined. Some were faster. Some had governments that ran like clockwork. Some had cities so clean you felt guilty dropping a receipt. But then I landed back in Malaysia. And something shifted. Not dramatically. Not in one single moment. Quietly. The way the truest realizations always arrive. And I finally understood. Malaysia is not the richest country in Asia. It is not the most powerful. It is not the most organized. It is not the most famous. But Malaysia has something that almost every other Asian country has quietly given up on the road to becoming impressive. And once you see it, you cannot stop seeing it. Today I am going to take you through all 7. Thailand, Indonesia, the Philippines, Vietnam, Singapore, South Korea, and Japan. And show you one country at a time. Exactly what each of them taught me about why Malaysia is not just different. Why Malaysia might be the most underestimated country in Asia. Stay with me, because by the time we reach the middle of this video, you are going to understand something about your own country that you probably walked past every single day without noticing. But before we get into it, this channel exists for one reason: to show the world what Malaysia actually is. Not the version in a tourism brochure. Not the version the world assumes without looking closely. The version that takes time to understand. The version that rewards the people who pay attention. If that is the kind of content you want more of, subscribe right now and turn on the notification bell. This channel gets a lot of views, but only a small number of people actually subscribe. If this video makes you think differently about where you come from, be one of the ones who stays. Now, let's start with Thailand. Thailand was my first stop, and I went there fully ready to be amazed. Bangkok is one of the most electrifying cities on earth. Phuket is world famous. Thai food is everywhere. The temples are extraordinary. Tourism is booming. On the outside, Thailand looks like it is doing everything right. But once you stay there long enough, you start seeing what the postcard hides. Thailand has had 13 military coups since 1932. 13. Every few years, tanks roll into the streets. Governments collapse, and life simply resets. People accept it because it has become normal. Malaysia complains about politics. Fair enough. But you have never had tanks in your streets. You change governments through elections, not through soldiers. And Thailand's economy depends almost entirely on tourism. When COVID arrived, the country didn't just slow down. It collapsed. Millions lost everything overnight. Malaysia didn't collapse. Because Malaysia doesn't rely on just one thing: manufacturing, electronics, palm oil, services, tourism, diversity built into the economic foundation from the beginning. Thailand taught me this. Looking good is not the same as being stable. The next stop made me rethink everything I assumed about potential. On paper, Indonesia should be impossible to compete with. Over 270 million people. Endless natural resources. More land. More manpower. More raw potential than almost any nation in the region. Same neighborhood as Malaysia. Similar culture. Similar food. Similar history. So why does Malaysia feel so completely different? The moment you land? The moment I arrived in Jakarta, I understood. Traffic so severe it makes Kuala Lumpur feel like a quiet Sunday morning. Air so thick with pollution the skyline disappears into it. Extreme wealth and extreme poverty sharing the same street corner. Existing in the same city without ever truly meeting. Indonesia has size. Malaysia has systems. Public transport that works. Cities that function. Institutions that, even when imperfect, still show up and do their job. And here is what shocked me most. Indonesians are leaving. Millions work abroad, in Malaysia, in Singapore, in the Middle East, because their own country cannot keep enough opportunity at home to keep them there. Malaysia has problems. Real ones. But Malaysians are not running away in massive numbers. Indonesia taught me this. Bigger doesn't mean better. Functional does. This one hit differently from everything before it. Because the Philippines is full of some of the most generous, hardworking, genuinely warm-hearted people I have ever met anywhere. But their country has failed them in one of the most painful ways. A country can fail its own people. Over 10 million Filipinos work overseas. Mothers leave their children behind for years to work as helpers in Hong Kong. Fathers work construction in the Middle East, sending money home while missing the years they will never get back. I met a woman in Manila who had not seen her children in 5 years. Not because she wanted to leave. Because she had no choice. That is not a tragedy in the Philippines. That is Tuesday. In Malaysia, people complain about jobs. Some of those complaints are completely valid. But you are not forced to leave your country just to survive. You can work here. You can raise your children here. You can be present for the moments that cannot be replaced. The Philippines taught me this. A country that cannot keep its families together is broken. No matter how beautiful the people are. Before we continue, if you are Malaysian and this video is already making you see your country differently, hit the like button right now. Let's push this out so more Malaysians actually see it. Because this is a conversation this country needs to have. Now, Vietnam. Everyone calls Vietnam the next big thing. Fastest growing economy in Southeast Asia. The new manufacturing powerhouse. The next China. Young population. Rising middle class. Incredible momentum. And yes, Vietnam is growing. Genuinely and impressively fast. But here is the part that never makes the headline. Vietnam is a one-party state. You cannot criticize the government openly. You cannot protest freely. You cannot vote leaders out when they fail you. The internet is monitored. Conversations are watched. The growth is real. But so are the walls around it. Malaysia is messy. Its democracy is imperfect. Its politics are loud and sometimes embarrassing. But you can say that. Out loud. In public. You can protest. You can vote. You can practice any religion openly. You can criticize power without consequences following you home. That is not a small thing. That is one of the rarest things a government can give its people and actually mean it. Vietnam taught me this. Growth without freedom is not success. It is a more comfortable cage. Then came the country everyone loves to hold over Malaysia. And yes, Singapore is genuinely impressive. Immaculate streets. Ruthlessly efficient systems. One of the best airports on Earth. Wealth concentrated in ways that are almost difficult to process. But I lived there. And here is the truth that very few people are willing to say out loud. Singapore is lonely. Not occasionally. Structurally, deeply, quietly lonely. People do not know their neighbors. Everyone is busy. Everyone is optimizing. Everything feels transactional. The city runs like a machine because everyone inside it is expected to perform like one. 60 to 70-hour work weeks called normal. Ambition rewarded. Rest treated like a character flaw. No mamak at 2 in the morning. No spontaneous conversations that go nowhere. And somehow mean everything. No real sense of we. And that is exactly why Singaporeans cross the causeway into Malaysia on weekends. Not for the shopping. To slow down. To breathe. To feel human again. Singapore taught me this. A country can be rich in every way that can be measured, and still be bankrupt in the ways that actually matter. Few countries have made the world fall in love with them, the way South Korea has. K-pop, K-dramas, Samsung, Hyundai, BTS. A nation that rebuilt itself from war and poverty into a global cultural powerhouse within 2 generations. The world admires South Korea, and it earns some of that admiration. But success has a price that doesn't appear in any brochure. Students study up to 16 hours a day. Workers are expected to sacrifice everything for their companies. Failure, not catastrophic failure, any failure, is treated as a permanent mark against your name. South Korea has one of the highest suicide rates in the developed world. People are not just under pressure, they are breaking. Malaysia works hard, but Malaysians also know when to stop. You still have time for your family, for your friends, for your food and your faith and the parts of life that do not show up on any performance review. You do not push until you collapse and then call it dedication. South Korea taught me this. A nation that cannot protect its people from its own definition of success has not truly succeeded. And then there was Japan. One of the most technologically advanced, culturally rich, quietly extraordinary nations on Earth. I went there with deep respect. I left with the same respect. And one question I could not shake loose. Because Japan has a silent crisis that its own famous politeness makes almost impossible to talk about openly. Loneliness has become a national emergency. People die alone in their apartments and are not found for weeks. There is even a word for it in Japanese. Kodakushi. Lonely death. Entire towns are emptying out as the population shrinks. Young people are locking themselves in their rooms for years, completely cut off from the world outside. Japan mastered progress. But somewhere between the bullet trains and the precision, and the relentless pursuit of perfection, it lost the thread that holds people to each other. Malaysia still checks on its neighbors, still shows up with food without being asked, still notices when someone goes quiet for too long. That instinct, the instinct to look after each other, sounds small until you visit a country that has lost it completely. Japan taught me this. Progress means nothing if the people making it are slowly disappearing from each other's lives. So here is what 7 countries taught me. Thailand has beauty, but no stability. Indonesia has scale, but no systems. The Philippines has heart, but forces its people to leave. Vietnam has growth, but no freedom. Singapore has wealth, but no soul. South Korea has success, but no balance. Japan has progress, but no connection. And Malaysia? Malaysia has balance, not perfection. You have corruption. You have inequality. You have political noise and racial tension, and things that genuinely need to be fixed. None of that is invisible. But your country works. You did not fall into any extreme. You kept your people. You kept your freedom. You kept your humanity. And in a continent where every nation sacrificed something enormous to get ahead. That is not ordinary. That is rare. If you are still watching, subscribe right now, because I will keep making videos that remind you what you actually have. Share this with another Malaysian, especially the ones who always complain, especially the ones who forgot, especially the ones who need to be reminded that they were born in a country that did not have to sacrifice its soul to survive. Comment below and tell me, which country shocked you the most? Because Malaysia is not perfect. But Malaysia is proof that you do not need to be extreme to be successful. You just need to stay human. And that is enough. I will see you in the next one.